The sheriff's office in Prescott, Arizona, smelled of coffee, leather, and anxiety. It was early evening, but the sun hung low over the desert town, spilling golden light across the lobby's dusty linoleum floors. Crowds shuffled nervously, neighbors whispering about Elise Carter's disappearance, reporters scribbling notes, deputies scanning faces for someone who might know something. But the attention wasn't on the journalists or the worried townspeople. It was on the tiny figure near the corner of the room. 3-year-old Lily Hale clutched her father's jeans, eyes wide, her small boots tapping the floor in anxious rhythm. She was too small to understand why the room smelled like fear, too young to grasp the adult tension, but she was the last person to have been near Elise's home before she vanished. Detective Maria Vega crouched near the door, notebook in hand. She had seen a lot in her 10 years on the force, but nothing prepared her for a child like Lily. The girl wasn't crying. She wasn't fussing. She just watched. And in that watching there was something deliberate, almost unnerving, about the way she observed the deputies and their K-9 partner Rocco. The dog was restless, packing in tight circles, ears swiveling, nostrils flaring. He had been trained to detect threats, human scent, and danger. But tonight, he seemed to sense more than the adults in the room did. Deputy Collins whispered something to Vega, nodding toward the little girl. "She's been the last known contact," he said. "Her parents say she was in the backyard while Elise went out for groceries. But I mean, she's 3. What could she possibly remember?" Vega didn't answer. She had a feeling this wasn't going to be typical. Something about the way Lily's gaze met Rocco's, her tiny brows furrowed, lips pressed tight, made her stomach tighten. It was almost like the dog recognized something in the girl, and Vega had seen Rocco read situations before. He didn't react this way for nothing. The room hummed with tension. Reporters were ushered to the far side, deputies whispered to each other, and yet Lily stayed rooted to her spot. Her father, a wiry man named Tom Hale, kept his hand on her shoulder, shifting nervously. "Sweetheart, it's okay," he murmured, though his voice carried an edge of desperation. "They just want to ask you a few questions." Lily didn't respond. She wasn't scared in the typical sense. Her tiny frame was rigid, her brown eyes tracking every movement of the deputies. And then, almost imperceptibly, she stepped forward, her hand hovering in the air. The room quieted. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to dim in anticipation. She walked directly to Rocco. The K-9's handler, Officer Daniels, knelt to his dog's level, leash slack. "Easy, boy," he said. But Rocco didn't relax. He stared at Lily, ears forward, tail stiff, nostrils quivering. His gaze was intense, fixated, and something about the way Lily reached out and touched his muzzle made the room hold its collective breath. She whispered, voice trembling but clear, "He knows." Vega froze. "Who knows, sweetheart?" she asked softly, crouching to Lily's height. She felt sweat prick her brow, though the desert evening was cool. Lily didn't look at her. She looked into the dog's eyes. Rocco's tail twitched, the low growl in his throat vibrating against the polished floor. It was a warning. Something dangerous had just stepped into the room, and only a toddler and a dog seemed aware. "The bad man," Lily said. Her words were almost too small to hear, but every adult in the room leaned in. Rocco saw him. A ripple of disbelief moved through the deputies. She saw what?" Deputy Collins stammered. His voice cracked under the weight of the room's tension. Reporters scribbled furiously, though none dared ask a question. This was no ordinary missing person case anymore. Something darker was threading itself into the story, and the truth might be too sharp to handle. Vega's notebook lay open, untouched. She gritted her teeth. "Lily, where did Rocco see him?" Her voice was calm, but her pulse raced. The girl's tiny hand lifted, pointing toward the lobby doors. Vega glanced outside. The parking lot was empty, save for the station's few patrol cars, the late evening shadows stretching like long fingers across the asphalt. Nothing seemed out of place. And yet, the tension in Lily's stance and Rocco's hackled fur told a different story. Tom Hale looked bewildered, glancing between his daughter and the detectives. "Sweetheart, what are you talking about?" he asked. His voice was tight, protective, desperate, but Lily didn't answer him. Her attention remained fixed on the dog, on the invisible threat only she and Rocco seemed to perceive. Rocco whimpered softly, a deep, mournful sound that made Vega's stomach churn. This was a trained police dog, a beast that had faced dangerous criminals and aggressive animals, and yet he responded to Lily with something that resembled reverence, recognition, fear. Vega couldn't put it into words, but she didn't need to. She knew instinctively that whatever Lily was sensing, it was real. "She's telling the truth," Officer Daniels muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "Rocco doesn't react like this unless it's serious." Vega's mind raced. If a toddler and a K9 were giving her signals like this, it meant someone dangerous was nearby or had been. And the missing woman, Elise Carter, was likely in greater peril than anyone realized. She took a deep breath and crouched closer. "Lily, honey, can you show me where?" The girl's eyes flicked to her father. For a fraction of a second there was hesitation, a shadow crossing her expression. Tom Hale's hand tightened on her shoulder. He whispered something she didn't hear. But then Lily straightened, determination settling on her small face like armor. She turned back to Vega, then pointed a trembling finger toward the window that overlooked the sheriff's parking lot. Vega's pulse jumped. There was nothing there. Empty asphalt, a few patrol cars, the fading sunlight glinting off the windows, but Rocco didn't move. He barked, a deep, urgent, guttural sound that vibrated through the room. Every officer instinctively tensed, hands hovering near their belts. Even the journalists froze mid-note, pens poised, sensing something monumental about to unfold. Lily's voice broke the silence. "He came here in the trees." The room went still. Vega swallowed hard. "Trees? What trees, Lily?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. The toddler pointed again, this time at the map on the wall behind the reception desk. It was a layout of the town, scribbled with colored pins marking important sites. Her small finger jabbed at a cluster of green, the outskirts of Prescott, near the abandoned ranger station. "He hides there," Lily said. "Rocco saw him." Gasps escaped from the deputies. A dozen thoughts collided in Vega's mind. Was this a hunch? A child's imagination? Or had Lily truly seen something she shouldn't have? She could feel the hairs on her arms standing on end. Something about the conviction in Lily's voice and the urgency in Rocco's growl made disbelief impossible. She's right," Officer Daniels said, voice low. "Dogs don't lie." He looked down at Rocco, whose body was rigid, ears forward, eyes locked on Lily. The K9 whined softly again, nudging the girl as if to say, "Keep going." Vega stood slowly, mind racing. If Lily had seen something at the ranger station, and if Rocco was responding the way he was, it could be a lead. A dangerous lead. The kind of lead that put lives on the line. Vega glanced at Tom Hale. He looked pale, stricken, as though he suddenly realized his little girl held knowledge he couldn't control. "Sweetheart," Vega said, kneeling again to Lily's level, "can you show us the way?" Lily hesitated, her lips quivered. "He'll be mad," she whispered. "The bad man, he said don't tell." Vega froze. That small sentence, almost casual, made her blood run cold. Whoever this man was, he had threatened a 3-year-old. And yet Lily was willing to speak anyway. "Do you want to help Rocco catch him?" Vega asked softly. Lily nodded, determination glinting in her wide brown eyes. Her tiny hands gripped Vega's fingers. Vega glanced at the deputies. "Prepare for a search," she said, voice low but commanding, "and keep the girl safe. But this could be our only lead." Outside, the desert sun dipped below the horizon, shadows stretching into the woods. Somewhere in those trees, a man waited, and only a toddler and a police dog knew he was there. Vega felt a chill run down her spine. The night was quiet, too quiet, and the wind whispered through the nearby pine trees like a warning. Somewhere beyond the town, danger waited. And tonight, it wasn't going to stay hidden for long. Lily looked up at Vega, whispering once more, her tiny voice barely audible. "He's coming back." The room held its breath. And in the sudden silence, everyone knew. The missing woman wasn't lost by accident, and the little girl held the key to uncovering a truth far darker than anyone could imagine. The sheriff's office descended into controlled chaos. Deputies fanned out, radios crackling with updates as Detective Maria Vega clutched Lily's hand, guiding her toward the patrol car. The little girl's grip was surprisingly firm, her knuckles pale but determined, and Rocco padded faithfully by their side, his leash loose in Vega's other hand. The dog's ears remained pricked, tail stiff, every movement a silent alarm that danger wasn't far away. Tom Hale lingered behind, wringing his hands, whispering reassurances to reporters and other officers, but his eyes never left his daughter. He didn't understand why Lily, just 3, could trigger a level of urgency that rivaled a SWAT call-out, but he trusted Vega. Somehow, she seemed to understand the gravity of Lily's words. He's coming back. Vega studied Lily closely as she climbed into the passenger seat. The girl's brown eyes darted toward the window, fixated on the distant tree line that marked the edge of the town. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her jacket, twisting it in a nervous rhythm. "Lily," Vega said gently, "tell me everything. Where did you see him?" The toddler hesitated, blinking up at her like a small, human lighthouse in the growing darkness. "In the trees," she whispered again. "He was watching. He hurt Mommy. He will be mad if he sees me." Her words hung in the air like smoke, thin but choking. Vega exchanged a glance with Officer Daniels, who had joined them at the patrol car. Daniels frowned, leash still in hand. She's describing someone dangerous, and she's pointing us directly toward him." His voice was low, almost a whisper, but sharp with tension. "We need to be ready for anything." The patrol car's engine roared as Vega navigated through the quiet streets, Rocco resting his paws on the floorboard, ears twitching with every passing shadow. The sun had dipped completely below the horizon now, leaving the desert awash in indigo and violet, the first stars twinkling like faint warnings. Every rustle of wind in the brush, every snapping twig along the roadside made Vega's nerves tighten. Lily pressed her forehead against the window, eyes fixed on the distant tree line. "There," she whispered. "He went that way, by the rocks." Vega's stomach clenched. She could see the abandoned ranger station from here, half hidden in overgrown weeds, a relic of a forgotten past. Its wooden walls were weathered and gray, the roof sagging in places. The entire area had an eerie stillness, as though the desert itself held its breath. Rocco growled low in his throat, a sound that set the hairs on Vega's arm standing. "We're close," Vega said softly, keeping her voice calm but tense. She parked the car at the edge of the dirt trail leading into the station. The officers fanned out behind her, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The beam of light fell on Lily, whose tiny frame suddenly seemed even more fragile in the harsh glow. She clutched Vega's jacket and whispered again, "He's waiting. He saw me." Vega crouched down to meet her eyes. "Lily, we're going to get Mommy back, okay? But you have to stay close to Rocco. Understand?" The girl nodded, lips pressed tight, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and courage that defied her age. She took a deep breath, then pressed her tiny hand to Rocco's muzzle. The dog nuzzled her hand, tail stiff but wagging slightly in reassurance. He understood her. He trusted her. And in that bond, Vega saw the key to surviving what was about to unfold. They moved slowly into the shadowed trail. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig beneath boots sounded like a gunshot in the silence. Vega kept her hand on the holster of her service weapon, eyes scanning the darkness. Rocco led the way, nose twitching, low growl rumbling as they approached the ranger station. Lily followed, tiny footsteps crunching in the dirt, her breath shallow and rapid. Vega's mind raced. The missing woman, Elise Carter, had vanished under mysterious circumstances, but now they were tracing her footsteps in real time, guided by a toddler and a police dog. It was surreal, but Vega didn't have time for disbelief. Every instinct screamed danger, and every instinct told her the man Lily had seen was likely armed, desperate, and unpredictable. As they reached the perimeter of the station, Lily froze. "He's here," she whispered, voice trembling. Rocco's growl deepened, the sound vibrating in Vega's chest. Vega scanned the shadows. Nothing moved, nothing yet, but the hairs on her neck prickled. Someone or something was waiting. Suddenly, a door at the back of the ranger station creaked open. A shape emerged, hunched and fast, moving with deliberate caution. Vega signaled to the deputies and flashlights snapped on, illuminating the figure. A man's face appeared under the dim glow, rough, unshaven, eyes darting nervously. He froze when he saw Rocco, who lunged forward, barking with raw intensity. "Stop right there," Vega shouted, gun drawn. The man bolted, sprinting toward the overgrown woods. Rocco lunged after him without hesitation, dragging Daniels in his wake. Vega grabbed Lily, pulling her behind a tree for cover. The wind caught in the branches, sending shadows skittering across the ground like ghostly fingers. Lily clutched Rocco's leash tightly, whispering, "Go get him, Rocco." Vega's heart pounded. She couldn't believe what was happening, a toddler directing a police dog in a live pursuit. But she couldn't argue with the results. Rocco was fast, trained, and now guided by instinct and a child's memory. The man ran blindly, crashing through the underbrush, and the deputies followed, shouting commands that were swallowed by the desert night. Lily whispered again, almost to herself, "He can't hurt Mommy again." Vega froze, her chest tightened. "Mommy?" She turned to glance at Lily, whose small face was determined but fearful. "Lily, what do you mean?" The toddler swallowed hard. "He hurt her. Elise, Mommy. He said if I tell, he'll come back." Her voice cracked, tiny sobs forming at the edges. Vega's heart sank. Elise Carter hadn't just vanished, she had been trapped, possibly injured, while a man now hunted both mother and child. The stakes had escalated beyond missing person to full-blown, life-threatening danger. Vega took a deep breath. "Okay, Lily, we're going to help her, but you have to stay right here." She tightened her grip on the little girl's hand. Rocco nudged Lily's side, growling low, as if confirming the detective's words. The pursuit continued, flashlights bobbing and piercing the darkness. The man's footprints were fresh in the dirt, and the officers shouted warnings, their voices echoing against the silent trees. The desert was alive with tension, every shadow a potential threat. Vega's mind ran scenarios faster than the patrol car's engine had earlier. What if he split into the brush? What if he had a weapon? What if Lily's memories were the only thread connecting them to Elise? Then a scream cut through the night, a sharp, terrified scream. It was Lily's. Vega's stomach dropped. She motioned to the officers. "We need to move now." Lily pressed herself against Vega, trembling. "Mommy," she whispered. Vega swallowed the lump in her throat. "We're coming, Lily, I promise." Rocco's barking grew frantic, slicing through the night, guiding them. The toddler's eyes widened as the dog's growls shifted from protective to urgent. Something was ahead. Something was very wrong. They reached a clearing where the ranger station's shed had partially collapsed, wooden beams jutting at dangerous angles. There, sprawled amid shadows, was a figure, curled, bruised, but alive. Vega's breath caught in her throat. Elise Carter. Blood streaked her cheek, clothes torn, but her eyes fluttered open, recognizing her daughter instantly. "Lily," Elise croaked, voice weak but unmistakable. The little girl gasped, rushing forward, tears streaming, but Vega held her back. "Stay with Rocco," she instructed firmly. Elise struggled to rise, whispering, "He's coming, he knows." She talked. Vega froze. "Who knows?" she demanded, scanning the darkness. "Elise's ex," whispered a shaking voice. "He wants her back and he won't stop." A branch snapped somewhere beyond the clearing. Rocco stiffened, hackles raised. The desert night seemed to lean in, waiting. Vega looked down at Lily, whose wide eyes mirrored the same terror and determination Vega felt in herself. "We're not safe yet," Vega whispered. And in the still desert air it was clear. The hunt wasn't over. The danger wasn't done. The man who had hurt Elise, the man who had tried to hide the truth, was still out there. Lily swallowed, gripping Rocco's leash. "He's going to come back," she whispered, voice trembling but resolute. Vega's chest tightened, and for the first time that night, she realized the little girl wasn't just a witness. She was the key to stopping him. The wind whispered through the trees, shadows danced, and in the distance a figure moved, watching, waiting. The chase had only just begun. The desert night had swallowed sound, leaving only the crunch of leaves under boots, the faint whistle of wind, and the low, warning growl of Rocco. Detective Vega crouched beside the collapsed shed, eyes scanning the darkness where Elise Carter lay half-hidden beneath shattered wooden beams. Her body was bruised, her clothing torn, but she was breathing. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven rhythms, eyes darting toward the trees, scanning for movement. "Stay back, Lily," Vega whispered firmly, but the little girl had already inched closer, clutching Rocco's leash as though it were a lifeline. Her small hands were trembling, knuckles white, yet there was a stubborn determination in her gaze that Vega found impossible to ignore. Lily had been the first to see the danger, the first to recognize it, and now she seemed unwilling to step away. Elise coughed, choking back tears and blood. He's watching," she rasped. "He saw you come." Vega's pulse quickened. She glanced toward the shadows, searching for the man who had caused all this chaos. Somewhere in the brush, he was lurking, calculating, dangerous, desperate. Every instinct in Vega's body screamed that he was armed, capable, and unpredictable. Rocco growled again, low and urgent. The dog's body was rigid, muscles coiled like springs ready to snap. He barked, then whined softly, nudging Lily's hand as if to say, "Stay close. Trust me." Vega turned her attention back to the toddler. "Lily, can you show us where he went?" The girl's lips trembled. She swallowed hard and nodded, pointing toward a narrow trail leading deeper into the forest surrounding the ranger station. "He ran that way by the rocks," she whispered. "Rocco knows." Vega exhaled slowly, steadying her racing thoughts. "All right," she said. "We're moving, but you hold Rocco's leash tight, understand?" Lily's small hand gripped the leash with surprising strength. "Yes," she whispered. "He'll help us." Vega nodded and gestured to the deputies. Flashlights clicked on, illuminating the rough terrain as they followed the trail. Every shadow seemed to stretch unnaturally. Every tree branch cast a shape that looked like a hand reaching for them. The desert night pressed in on all sides, a weight of silence and tension broken only by the crunch of boots and the occasional bark of Rocco. The trail wound into a shallow canyon, rocky terrain that forced the officers to slow their pace. Rocco sniffed the ground, nose to the earth, tail stiff. He paused occasionally, ears swiveling, then darted forward again, guiding them with an instinct Vega trusted implicitly. Lily's voice was quiet but insistent, whispering instructions to the dog. "Over there, behind the big rock, he went that way." Vega followed her gaze. The canyon widened, revealing a thicket of trees with underbrush thick enough to conceal a person. Shadows shifted among the branches, and Vega felt her stomach tighten. "He's close," she murmured. "Stay sharp." Suddenly, Rocco froze mid-step, body rigid. His growl rolled low and menacing, vibrating through the still night. Vega signaled the deputies to halt. She squinted into the darkness, straining to make out the figure Rocco had sensed. A man stepped out from behind a tree, moving slowly, deliberately, scanning the area with eyes cold and calculating. Vega's heart thumped in her chest. This was him, the man who had hurt Elise, the one Lily had recognized. He was watching, waiting, testing them. The officers whispered into their radios, trying to coordinate. Vega crouched behind a boulder, keeping Lily close. The little girl's wide eyes met hers, and Vega could see the fear but also the understanding. Lily knew who he was, she knew what he had done, and she knew, in a way adults sometimes failed to grasp, that this was a fight for survival. "Do you know him?" Vega asked softly, keeping her voice low. Lily nodded. He hurt Mommy," she whispered. "He said, 'Don't tell anyone,'" her lips quivered. "But I told Rocco." Vega swallowed hard. Her mind raced. Lily's memory, her courage, and her connection to Rocco were their only advantage in this moment. Without it, the man could vanish into the night like a shadow, leaving Elise in danger. The man stepped closer to the boulder where they hid, unaware of Lily's small presence but sensing Rocco's tension. The dog barked sharply, a warning that echoed through the canyon. The man froze, eyes narrowing, realizing that someone or something was tracking him. Lily whispered again, pointing with her small finger. "Over there by the fallen tree." He hid. Vega followed the direction, nodding the massive tree that had toppled years ago, its branches twisted like skeletal arms. She signaled to the deputies. "Form a perimeter," she ordered. "Move in slow, eyes on the target." They advanced carefully, flashlights sweeping the shadows. Every step brought the officers closer to danger, but Rocco led with certainty, nose twitching, muscles coiled. Lily's tiny voice continued to guide him, whispering directions, urging him forward. The desert night seemed to press in, amplifying the tension, every sound magnified in the canyon's hollow. Suddenly the man made a move, a sudden dash toward the far edge of the canyon. Vega shouted, "Stop him!" The deputies took off, boots pounding the dirt, radios crackling with coordination. Rocco tore forward, leash taut, barking ferociously. Lily's small hands gripped the leash as the dog lunged, determination blazing in his eyes. Vega sprinted after them, her own adrenaline surging. The canyon narrowed, and branches snagged at clothing, scratching exposed skin. The man was fast, desperate, a predator cornered by forces he hadn't anticipated. But he underestimated one thing: a toddler who remembered every detail and a police dog who refused to let him escape. Lily's voice rang out, "He's going to the rocks, stop him." Rocco accelerated, muscles rippling under his fur. The man tripped over a boulder, sprawling into the dirt, but scrambled up again, teeth gritted, panic flashing in his eyes. Vega's gun was raised, deputies flanking him, lights illuminating every inch of the canyon. Then a twig snapped behind them. Vega froze, every officer froze. Rocco growled, turning his head, ears stiff. Lily whispered, barely audible, "He's not alone." The canyon seemed to close in, darkness pressing from all sides. Vega's mind raced, realizing the danger was far from over. The man who had hurt Elise was fast, desperate, and now, according to Lily, he wasn't acting alone. Vega's pulse pounded in her ears. She looked at Lily, who was trembling but resolute. "We need to keep moving," she whispered. "Stay with Rocco, trust him." The little girl nodded, leaning into the dog's fur for reassurance. Rocco's growl deepened, muscles coiled, ready to protect. Vega took a deep breath, signaling to the deputies. "We continue. Eyes open. Move carefully. He knows we're coming." Shadows shifted in the canyon and Vega's stomach clenched. Somewhere ahead in the dark, danger waited. Someone or something was watching, biding its time. And in the still desert night, the only certainty was this: the hunt was far from over. As they pressed deeper into the canyon, Lily whispered again, "He's watching us. Don't let him take Mommy." Vega's jaw tightened. She glanced at the little girl's wide, determined eyes. Somehow, this tiny human held the key to everything. Without her guidance, without Rocco, they might never find Elise, but with her they had a chance. A distant rustle caught Vega's attention. She signaled for the deputies to halt. The canyon was silent again, save for Rocco's growl and Lily's small, whispered words. Then a shadow moved across the rocks ahead, larger than before, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Vega froze, heart pounding. The man, and possibly an accomplice, was still out there. They weren't safe. Not yet. Lily pressed her tiny hand against Rocco's fur, whispering, "Go, Rocco, protect us." The dog growled, body coiled like a spring. And in that instant, the canyon seemed to hold its breath. The next move would determine everything. The canyon hung heavy in darkness, shadows curling around rocks and fallen trees like fingers waiting to snatch at the living. Detective Maria Vega crouched behind a boulder, Rocco at her side, ears pricked and growl low. Lily clutched the leash with both tiny hands, breathing shallow, heart hammering in rhythm with the dog's warning growls. The man who had hurt Elise Carter, and possibly someone else, was out there. He knew they were coming. And he wasn't about to let them succeed without a fight. Vega scanned the tree-lined flashlight sweeping slowly across the underbrush. A branch snapped somewhere in the shadows. Rocco barked sharply, teeth flashing in the light. The little girl gasped, pulling closer to the dog's fur. Vega's hand went to her gun. Every sense was on high alert. The desert night had a strange, pressing silence that made every movement feel monumental. "Elise," Lily whispered, eyes wide. "She's hurt, he'll see her." Vega crouched lower. "I know, Lily, but we're here, we're going to help her. You need to stay close to Rocco. Can you do that?" The girl nodded, swallowing hard. "I will." They moved forward, stepping carefully through the canyon. The trail narrowed, forcing them to single file. The deputies flanked Vega, flashlights cutting through the darkness, weapons drawn, eyes sharp. The tension in the air was palpable, every rustle a potential threat. Suddenly, a figure bolted from the shadows, sprinting toward the far edge of the canyon. Rocco lunged after him instantly, dragging Officer Daniels forward with a sharp tug. Vega shouted, "Stop him! Stop him now!" The man ran with desperate speed, weaving between rocks and trees. Lily's small voice rang out over the chaos. "Rocco, the rocks, he's going there." The dog responded instantly, changing course to intercept. Vega sprinted after them, heart hammering. Her boots thudded against the dirt, branches scratching at her jacket. Lily stayed low, following Rocco's guidance, eyes wide but alert. The little girl's intuition, the dog's instincts, and the officer's training combined in a delicate, dangerous dance against the desperate man. As they neared the far side of the canyon, Vega glimpsed a movement that made her stomach twist. Another shadow, larger than the first, shifted behind the trees. Someone else was there. "He's not alone," Lily whispered, voice trembling. Vega's pulse spiked. Her mind raced. If the man had a partner or accomplice, they could be walking into a trap. She signaled the deputies to fan out and hold positions, flashlights sweeping the area. Rocco growled, low and menacing, hackles raised. The dog's instincts screamed at Vega more than any human warning ever could. Then a scream echoed through the canyon, a sharp, terrified cry that made Vega's blood run cold. It was Elise. Vega ran toward the sound, Lily close behind, Rocco leading the way. Every step brought them closer to danger, but also closer to Elise. The scene that unfolded made Vega's chest tighten. Elise Carter lay pressed against a fallen boulder, her clothes torn, face streaked with blood and dirt. She struggled weakly, eyes flicking to the trees where the second figure had disappeared. Her breath came in shallow, ragged gasps. "Elise," Vega called, rushing forward. The woman's eyes widened with recognition. "Detective, it's Lily," she whispered, voice trembling. She knows." Vega knelt beside her, helping her to a sitting position. "We're here, Elise. We've got you. We're not leaving until you're safe." Elise shook her head, panic flashing in her eyes. He saw her. He knows she talked. My ex, he won't stop. He wants Lily." Vega's stomach clenched. "Who's out there? Where is he?" Before Elise could answer, a twig snapped nearby. The shadows moved again. Vega spun, gun raised, as a man emerged from the trees. It was the same figure who had fled earlier, tall, rough-looking, wild eyes darting. But now he was not alone. Another man appeared behind him, crouched low, following his lead. Vega's mind raced. They were surrounded, or nearly so. The canyon, which moments ago had seemed wide, now felt like a trap. The officers fanned out, weapons ready, but the unknown accomplice added a level of danger they hadn't anticipated. Lily clutched Rocco's leash tighter. "Rocco, protect us," she shouted, small but fierce. The dog responded instantly, teeth flashing, growl deepening, as though daring the men to come closer. Lily's confidence in the animal was palpable. She knew Rocco understood her completely. Vega watched, heart pounding, as the toddler directed the dog with instinctive precision. Every movement Lily made seemed to guide Rocco's actions, and together they formed a line of defense stronger than anyone had anticipated. The first man lunged toward Elise, but Rocco intercepted, knocking him off balance with a calculated force that was terrifying in its precision. The man stumbled, cursing, but regained his footing, eyes blazing with fury. Vega shouted commands and deputies advanced, flashlights blinding the attackers, guns raised. The second man tried to flank them, moving silently through the underbrush. Lily spotted him instantly. "Over there, by the rocks," she screamed. Rocco snapped to attention, pivoting to intercept the second threat. The canyon erupted in chaos. Shouts, barking, and the thundering of boots echoed against the rocky walls. Dust rose in clouds, catching the beams of flashlight like fog, and every movement carried the weight of potential disaster. Vega moved as fast as she could, keeping close to Elise while monitoring Lily and Rocco. Suddenly, Elise cried out, a sharp sound of pain. The first man had regained his footing and struck toward her again. Vega lunged, tackling him to the ground. The struggle was brutal and chaotic, the man fighting with desperation and strength born of fear and rage. Lily's voice rang out again. "Rocco, hurry!" The dog obeyed, rushing forward to block the second man from reaching them. The toddler's command was clear, precise, and instinctive. She knew exactly what the dog could do. Together, they formed a barrier that bought Vega and the deputies precious seconds. Vega pinned the first man, handcuffs ready, but he twisted violently, attempting to break free. Rocco circled, growling low, teeth bared. Lily shouted, "Don't let him get away." The second man paused, realizing that the dog and the little girl were more coordinated than he had anticipated. Fear flickered in his eyes. He backed away, calculating, reassessing. Vega saw her chance. "Move in," she commanded. Deputies closed in from the sides and the second man bolted, weaving through the shadows. Vega turned to Lily, kneeling to meet her gaze. "You did amazing," she whispered. The toddler's face was pale, sweat glistening on her forehead, but her eyes shone with fierce determination. "Rocco helped," Lily said softly, hugging the dog's fur. Elise, still seated against the boulder, weak but conscious, looked at her daughter with disbelief and relief. You saved me," she whispered. Her voice cracked with emotion. "My brave girl, you remembered." Vega glanced around. The men were not yet fully subdued. The accomplice had vanished into the shadows. But for a brief moment, there was a fragile sense of victory. Lily had guided them, Rocco had protected them, and Elise had survived another terrifying night. Then Lily's small hand touched Vega's sleeve, and she whispered, voice trembling, "There's something else I didn't tell." Vega's stomach tightened. "What is it, Lily?" The little girl's eyes darted toward the darkened trees. "The bad man wasn't alone. He has friends. They're coming back." The wind howled through the canyon, rattling leaves and branches. Shadows shifted. Vega's heart pounded in her chest. The battle wasn't over, not by a long shot. And in the cold, quiet night, one thing became terrifyingly clear. The danger had only grown. The desert night pressed in around them, dense and suffocating, as Detective Maria Vega helped Elise cart her to her feet. Every movement was measured, every glance scanning the shadows for the accomplice Lily had spoken of. The collapsed shed had been a temporary refuge, but the canyon's darkness offered no protection. Somewhere in the trees, someone, or multiple someones, was watching, waiting. Vega's heart pounded as she scanned the terrain. The quiet had grown unnatural, a tense, oppressive silence punctuated only by Rocco's low growls. The dog's ears flicked toward the shadows repeatedly, and Lily clutched his leash tighter. "He's here," the toddler whispered. "They're coming." Vega's jaw tightened. "All right, everyone move slowly but stay together. Eyes up, weapons ready." She glanced at the deputies flanking them. Flashlights cut beams through the underbrush, illuminating twisted branches and rocks. The canyon, which had felt wide before, now seemed like a cage closing in around them. Elise leaned heavily on Vega, groaning as pain radiated through her side. "I can't keep running," she whispered, voice hoarse from crying and shouting. "They'll catch me." Vega's eyes softened. "We won't let that happen," she said firmly. Her hands gripped the little girl's shoulders. "Lily, stay with Rocco. Do exactly what he does." The toddler nodded, wide-eyed but resolute. She had already proven her instincts were sharp. Vega trusted them more than any map or report. The officers moved cautiously, forming a perimeter as they pressed toward the canyon's exit. Rocco's growls grew louder, sharper, each bark a warning that danger was near. Then suddenly, a figure darted across the path ahead, another man, dark and fast, weaving between trees, attempting to flank them. "Move in," Vega shouted, gun raised. The deputies advanced, boots crunching against rocks and dry dirt. Rocco lunged toward the man, teeth bared. Lily shouted, "Stop him! Rocco, stop him!" The dog obeyed instantly, intercepting the figure before he could reach the group. The man stumbled but regained his balance, eyes darting frantically. "Get out of here," he hissed, lunging again. Vega tackled him to the ground, her adrenaline surging. The struggle was brutal, the man thrashing violently, desperate to escape. But Rocco stayed close, growling low and menacing. Lily's tiny hands pressed against the dog's fur, almost as if guiding him, and he responded with perfect coordination. Vega secured the first man in handcuffs, but her relief was short-lived. The second man, possibly the accomplice Lily had warned about, was nowhere in sight. Vega scanned the tree line, flashlight slicing through the darkness. The shadows shifted, then froze. A low whistle echoed through the canyon. "They're circling us," Officer Daniels whispered, voice tight. "We need to move now." Vega glanced down at Lily, whose small face was pale, lips trembling yet eyes burning with determination. "Can you do this?" Vega asked gently. The toddler nodded firmly. "I'll help Rocco, he knows." They advanced again, moving cautiously but quickly. Rocco led the way, nose to the ground, ears twitching. Lily's small voice guided him, pointing toward movement in the shadows. Each direction she whispered seemed to match the dog's instincts perfectly, as if they shared an unspoken understanding. Suddenly, a branch snapped violently to their right. Vega spun, gun raised, and a figure lunged from the shadows. It was the second man. He charged with reckless fury, aiming for Elise, who stumbled under her own weight. "Rocco!" Lily screamed. The dog sprang into action, teeth flashing, growl echoing. He knocked the man off balance, barking furiously. Lily's tiny hands guided him, pressing into his fur, whispering directions. Together, toddler and dog created a barrier between Elise and danger. Vega lunged, tackling the man to the ground. The fight was chaotic, flashes of movement, shouts, and the thud of bodies against rocks. Dust rose in clouds, mixing with sweat and fear. Vega fought to maintain control while keeping an eye on Lily and Elise. The man struggled violently, thrashing, eyes wild with panic and rage. Vega managed to cuff him, though the effort left her breathless and shaking. She glanced at the canyon. The shadows were still alive with movement. "They might have more," she warned. "Stay alert." Elise clutched Vega's arm, trembling. I can't run anymore," she gasped. He's going to get Lily." Vega swallowed, forcing calm over her rising panic. "We're not going to let that happen," she said firmly. She looked down at Lily, who was holding Rocco's leash tightly, still wide-eyed but brave. "We're almost out, sweetie. Just a little further." The canyon narrowed into a steep incline. The path was treacherous, rocks loose underfoot. Every step demanded balance, concentration, and focus. One wrong move could send someone tumbling into the darkness, but Vega had no choice. They had to keep moving. Suddenly, Rocco barked sharply, ears forward. Lily stiffened, pointing. "Over there by the rocks." Vega followed her gaze. Ahead, at the edge of the canyon, a large boulder moved. Someone crouched behind it, watching, waiting. Vega felt a chill crawl up her spine. They were not alone. The man they had subdued might have been just the beginning. "Everyone stay sharp," Vega shouted. Deputies fanned out, weapons ready. Rocco growled low, warning, hackles raised. Lily pressed herself close to the dog, whispering directions. The little girl's instincts were uncanny. Every movement she indicated matched Rocco's reactions perfectly. Together, they were a force no ordinary adult could match. The crouched figure behind the boulder moved suddenly, darting toward the group. Vega fired a warning shot. The man froze. Rocco lunged, teeth bared, growl vibrating through the canyon. Lily shouted, "Stop him!" The man stumbled, cursing, then scrambled behind another rock. Vega moved forward, flashlight cutting through the darkness, searching for additional threats. Elise leaned heavily on her, weak but conscious, eyes scanning the shadows. "He's not alone," Lily whispered again, fear and determination mingling in her voice. "They're coming back, more of them." Vega felt her chest tighten. The canyon had transformed into a battlefield. Every shadow, every rustle of leaves could hide a new threat. Yet in the midst of fear, she found a strange comfort in the coordination between the toddler and the police dog. They were guiding the team, predicting moves no adult could anticipate. The distant crunch of boots alerted Vega. More figures were approaching from the far side of the canyon. Backup had arrived, additional deputies converging from another trail. But the reinforcements were not yet in position, and the approaching men were moving fast, desperate, and violent. Vega took a deep breath. "Lily, stay with Rocco. You're doing amazing," she whispered. The girl nodded, small hands clutching the leash. The bond between them was palpable, a lifeline in a chaotic, dangerous night. The first man they had captured began yelling, panic in his voice. "You don't understand. There's more of us. They'll get you." Vega glanced at him, jaw tight. His words only confirmed her fear. The danger was far from over. The canyon was crawling with threats, and they had only just begun to uncover the scale of it. Lily whispered, almost to herself, "We can't let them take Mommy." Vega's heart pounded. She looked down at the little girl, who had already proven that courage wasn't measured in age. Somehow, in this desert night, a toddler and a dog were leading trained officers towards survival. And just as Vega prepared to move forward, a shadow detached itself from the trees, larger than the rest, moving deliberately. The accomplice, and possibly more, had arrived. The canyon held its breath. And Vega knew, with a sinking feeling in her chest, that the night's danger was far from over. The canyon held an oppressive stillness, as if the desert itself were watching, waiting. Detective Maria Vega crouched behind a jagged boulder, Elise leaning weakly on her, Rocco at her side, ears forward, growling low. Lily's tiny hands clutched the leash with white-knuckled determination, her wide eyes fixed on the shadows ahead. Somewhere out there, the man who had hurt Elise, and possibly more accomplices, was moving. Watching, waiting for the perfect moment. Vega's chest tightened. She had dealt with dangerous criminals before, but nothing had prepared her for the surreal, high-stakes ballet unfolding around her. A toddler, a police dog, and a desert canyon filled with unpredictable threats. The synergy between Lily and Rocco was uncanny. Every whisper of direction from the girl seemed to sharpen the dog's instincts, making him an extension of her small, intuitive mind. "They're here," Lily whispered, barely audible over the wind. Her voice was trembling but firm. "By the big rocks, don't let them pass." Vega glanced toward the rocky formations she recognized from the canyon's edge. They were massive, jagged, and perfect for concealment. From her vantage point, she could see shadows moving, calculated, deliberate. Multiple figures flitted through the darkness, their intentions unmistakable. Vega took a deep breath. "Everyone, stay tight. Follow Rocco's lead and listen to Lily. Move quietly but be ready for anything." The officers advanced carefully, flashlights cutting thin beams of light through the underbrush. Each rustle, each snap of a twig felt amplified in the canyon's heavy silence. Rocco sniffed the ground, tail stiff, growl deepening. He paused and pivoted, ears swiveling toward movement among the rocks. Lily whispered, "There, by the cracks, he's hiding." Vega signaled for the team to fan out. The first accomplice had already been subdued, but the second had vanished, and according to Lily, there might be more. Her instincts told Vega this was no ordinary criminal. They were organized, prepared, and violent. Then a figure bolted from behind the jagged rocks, charging straight toward Elise. Vega shouted, "Move, take cover." Rocco reacted instantly, lunging between the attacker and the group with teeth bared, growl echoing through the canyon like thunder. Lily shouted directions, tiny voice cutting through chaos. "Left, left, Rocco, stop him." The dog responded immediately, twisting, snapping, and blocking the man's path. Elise stumbled, caught by Vega just in time. The assailant cursed, eyes wild, then retreated behind another rock formation. Vega's heart pounded. The man wasn't giving up. He was calculating, desperate, and dangerous. "More coming," Lily whispered urgently, clutching Rocco's fur. Her instincts were alarming in their accuracy. Vega realized the child had become the most reliable tracker in the canyon, guiding them through danger with intuition no adult could replicate. The officers pressed forward, weapons raised. Flashlights swept the canyon, revealing partial glimpses of movement among the rocks. Shadows shifted, vanished, reappeared like predators stalking their prey. Vega's mind raced, plotting every possible escape route and containment strategy. Suddenly, a loud clang echoed through the canyon. A man had tripped, stumbling over a boulder, his movement sending a cloud of dust into the air. Rocco barked, snapping toward him, teeth flashing. Lily's voice was sharp, precise. "Grab him, don't let him escape." Vega lunged forward, pinning the man to the ground, handcuffs ready. The struggle was brutal. He fought with raw desperation, strength fueled by panic. Rocco circled, growling, snapping at his attempts to break free. Lily pressed herself close to the dog, her whispers guiding him, coordinating instinctively with every move Vega made. "Elise, can you move?" Vega asked, voice tight, glancing at the woman. Elise shook her head weakly. "No, too painful, he'll catch us." Her voice cracked with fear, and Vega felt a surge of protective urgency. They couldn't slow down. They couldn't give the attackers any advantage. "Rocco, hold," Lily commanded. The dog responded immediately, blocking another shadowy figure that had crept close. Vega's jaw clenched in awe. The child wasn't just observing, she was orchestrating, directing the dog with an accuracy and courage that defied her age. Vega's mind snapped to a new urgency. The accomplices were circling, likely trying to find a weak point. She motioned to the deputies. "Hold your positions, but stay ready. They're testing us. Don't give them a single chance." The shadows shifted again, and from the darkness a tall figure emerged, someone larger than the others, moving deliberately toward the canyon's center. Vega's heart skipped. This was the leader, the one orchestrating the attacks, moving with calm, calculated menace. "Stay calm," Vega whispered to Elise, who leaned heavily on her. "We've got this." But even as she spoke, her stomach twisted with anxiety. The man's presence radiated danger, control, and violence. The night had become a battleground, and every second was a knife edge between survival and disaster. Lily's small voice cut through Vega's thoughts. "Rocco, protect Mommy." The dog responded instantly, lunging toward the leader with precision. The man twisted, surprised by the coordination, and stumbled slightly. Vega signaled deputies forward. Flashlights illuminated the figure in harsh white beams. The leader froze, eyes narrowing, calculating as Rocco barked and circled. Lily's whispers guided every move. "Left, don't let him pass. Stay in front." The little girl's bravery was astonishing. She had become their navigator, their strategic guide, and Rocco's unwavering ally. The first man, already captured, shouted warnings from the ground. "He's strong. Don't let him get you." His voice trembled with fear, confirming Vega's intuition that more accomplices were nearby. Vega's heart hammered. "Lily, keep Rocco focused. We need to corner him now." The girl nodded, eyes wide, lips pressed tight in concentration. Rocco left, he's there. The dog lunged in the direction Lily indicated, snapping at the leader's ankle, forcing him to stumble into the open. Vega and deputies surged forward, surrounding him. The man's eyes darted, calculating escape routes, but the combined pressure of officers, a toddler's guidance, and a trained police dog left him little room to maneuver. Vega moved closer, gun trained steadily. "You're done," she said firmly. The man froze, realizing escape was impossible. Rocco barked triumphantly, circling the man, growl low but victorious. Lily pressed her small hands against the dog, whispering softly, "Good job, Rocco, you did it." Elise, still trembling, hugged her daughter tightly. You saved us," she whispered, tears streaming. "My brave girl." Vega felt a lump rise in her throat. The danger wasn't completely gone, shadows still lurked, and backup was still navigating the canyon. But for the first time that night, there was a glimmer of victory. The little girl had led them through chaos, guiding Rocco with courage and precision. Then a faint movement caught Vega's eye. A distant shadow flitted between trees. She stiffened. Could it be another accomplice, or had the remaining threats finally fled? She couldn't be sure. Vega looked down at Lily, whose wide eyes mirrored the same caution. "Stay with Rocco," she whispered. "We're almost safe." The wind whispered through the canyon, carrying the faint rustle of leaves, the echo of distant footsteps, and the lingering sense of danger. The night was not yet over, and the desert seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. Lily whispered again, voice soft but firm, "They'll come back, but we're ready." Vega nodded, gripping the little girl's shoulders. The bond between child and dog had become their lifeline. Together, they had survived the darkness, navigated danger, and brought Elise closer to safety. But the shadows remained, and the canyon held secrets yet to reveal. The next moment could change everything. And in that tense, fragile silence, Vega realized the real fight was not over. The canyon was eerily quiet after the intense confrontation. Detective Maria Vega's breath came in sharp, uneven gasps, her gun still raised, eyes scanning every shadow. Elise leaned heavily against her, trembling but conscious, while Rocco prowled the perimeter, low growl vibrating in his chest. Lily clutched the leash, small hands tight, eyes wide but determined. For a moment, the desert night seemed almost peaceful, but Vega knew better. Danger had a habit of lurking in the smallest, darkest corners, and the events of the past hours had proven that. "Stay close," Vega whispered, keeping Elise supported. "We're moving out carefully." Lily's voice was barely audible. The man, he has friends more than we saw." Her wide eyes darted to the shadows. "They're hiding, waiting." Vega nodded, swallowing the lump rising in her throat. "I know, but we've got Rocco and we've got each other. That's how we survive." The officers began forming a protective perimeter around Elise and Lily, flashlights sweeping over rocks and fallen branches. Every sound, rustling leaves, shifting shadows, felt amplified, signaling potential threats. Vega's pulse raced as she led the small group up the canyon path toward a narrower, safer exit. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed from deeper within the canyon, a low whistle followed by footsteps crunching on loose dirt. Vega froze, signaling for the team to halt. Rocco stiffened, hackles raised, growl vibrating through the air. Lily's hands tightened on his leash. "They're here," she whispered. "They're coming back." Vega's eyes narrowed. She had to think fast. The canyon walls were jagged, limiting visibility and mobility. Every second mattered. "Deputies, hold positions. Don't engage until I say. Lily, stay calm, stay with Rocco." The shadows shifted, and then they saw him, the taller accomplice, moving silently but deliberately, scanning for weaknesses. Behind him, two more figures emerged from concealment. Vega's stomach tightened. The situation had escalated beyond anything they'd faced before. "Rocco," Lily whispered, "don't let them pass." The dog growled, circling in front of the girl, positioning himself as a living barrier. Lily's small hands guided him, whispering precise instructions. Vega watched, amazed and tense. The toddler's instinctive understanding of the dog's abilities was the only reason they had survived thus far. Vega signaled to the deputies, "Move slowly, keep them contained, don't let them break our line." The group advanced cautiously. Each step was calculated. Rocco moved in perfect coordination with Lily blocking potential flanking routes. Shadows darted among the rocks, but the combination of trained officers, an instinctive toddler, and a protective police dog proved formidable. Suddenly, the lead accomplice lunged. Vega fired a warning shot and he froze, stunned. But the other two men didn't hesitate. They rushed forward from opposite sides, intent on overwhelming the group. Rocco snapped, teeth flashing, barking ferociously. Lily shouted directions, guiding him to intercept the attackers. Vega lunged to assist Elise, keeping her shielded from harm while deputies engaged the men. The clash was chaotic, shouts, barking, and the pounding of boots against rocks. Dust rose in swirling clouds, illuminated by flashlight beams, revealing glimpses of desperate, violent faces. One of the accomplices grabbed a branch, swinging it at Rocco. The dog dodged instinctively, pivoting to counter, teeth snapping inches from the man's hand. Lily shouted precise commands, guiding Rocco like a tiny general directing a seasoned soldier. Each movement she made was critical, coordinated, and brilliant in its simplicity. Vega tackled the branch-wielding attacker, twisting to subdue him while officers closed in from the flanks. The man struggled, thrashing violently, but the combined pressure of trained officers and the dog's intervention left him little room to maneuver. The second accomplice tried to flank them, moving through the shadows with desperate speed. Rocco intercepted, barking and snapping, guided by Lily's tiny hand on his fur. The toddler's instincts were uncanny. She directed Rocco with precision no adult could have managed in such a high-stress situation. Vega's mind raced. The canyon was chaotic, dangerous, and unpredictable, but every moment they held the line brought them closer to safety. Elise leaned heavily on her, gasping for breath. I can't. Keep running," she whispered, fear and exhaustion evident in her voice. "You don't have to," Vega said firmly. "We've got you. Just stay close. Lily and Rocco will protect us until we're clear." Then the unthinkable happened. From behind a large boulder, another shadow emerged, a fourth accomplice, moving silently but deliberately, weapon glinting in the faint light. Vega's stomach dropped. The attackers were more organized, more prepared, and far more dangerous than she had imagined. Lily's eyes widened. "There's another one," she whispered urgently. "Rocco, don't let him get Mommy." The dog reacted instantly, pivoting toward the new threat, growl deep and menacing. Lily pressed her small hands into his fur, guiding him like a conductor orchestrating a critical movement. The coordination between child and dog was flawless, instinctive, and life-saving. Vega took a deep breath, calculating. "Deputies, form a perimeter. Don't let anyone escape. Focus fire only if they move toward us." The fourth man froze, assessing the scene. He realized too late that the combination of trained officers, a fearless toddler, and a highly skilled police dog left him with no escape route. Suddenly, Rocco lunged, snapping at the man's ankle. He stumbled, cursing, and fell to the ground. Lily shouted directions, guiding the dog to block the path to Elise. Vega moved in, pinning the man and securing him with handcuffs. The canyon erupted in a cacophony of shouts, barked commands, and dust swirling in the night. One by one, the accomplices were subdued. The initial panic, chaos, and fear had been transformed into coordinated action, thanks to the astonishing teamwork between a toddler and a dog. Elise fell to her knees, trembling, clutching Lily. You saved us," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "My brave girl, my little hero." Vega knelt beside them, heart pounding. "You were incredible, Lily. Rocco wouldn't have managed without your guidance. You both saved lives tonight." The toddler hugged the dog tightly, whispering softly into his fur. Rocco's tail wagged slightly, growls softening. They had faced unimaginable danger, yet together they had prevailed. But even as relief settled over them, Vega's eyes scanned the canyon. The night was quiet now, eerily so. For a fleeting moment the desert seemed calm. Yet Vega knew better. Danger could always return. Shadows could hide, plans could shift, and survival often required more than bravery, it required vigilance. Lily looked up at Vega, eyes wide and serious. "They'll come back," she whispered, "but we're ready." Vega nodded, a lump rising in her throat. The child had faced darkness with courage and clarity beyond her years. She had guided a police dog, saved a mother, and helped officers navigate chaos that could have been deadly. The canyon held its breath. The desert wind whispered through the rocks, carrying a faint echo of movement. Vega felt the tension, but also a strange sense of awe. Together, a toddler, a mother, a police dog, and a team of officers had survived the night's horrors. They had faced danger, chaos, and fear, and emerged alive. But the memory of those shadows would linger long after the adrenaline faded. And as the first hints of dawn touched the canyon's jagged edges, Vega knew that the events of this night, small hands guiding a dog, a mother rescued, and shadows subdued, would leave a mark forever. But one truth remained. In the quiet moments before sunrise, the desert seemed to whisper that the fight was never truly over. The first pale streaks of dawn crept across the canyon walls, casting long, jagged shadows over the rocky terrain. Detective Maria Vega stood in the stillness, hand resting lightly on Rocco's fur, chest heaving with exhaustion. The night had been relentless, a chaotic blur of movement, danger, and instinct, but somehow they had survived. Elise Carter clung to Lily, trembling but alive, while deputies secured the last of the accomplices. For a moment the canyon was silent, too silent. Vega's mind raced, scanning the shadows for any sign of lingering threat. Even with the perpetrators detained, the night's events had left an invisible echo. The fear, the tension, the knowledge that danger could return when least expected. Lily's small voice broke the stillness. "Rocco, did we win?" She looked up at the dog, eyes wide, tentative, seeking reassurance. Rocco nudged her gently with his nose, tail wagging slightly, growls softening to a rumble of calm. Lily's face brightened, a hesitant smile breaking through the fear. She had led the dog through danger, directed officers with precision, and saved her mother. Her courage had been the anchor in a storm that could have consumed them all. Elise, still trembling, knelt beside them. Tears streamed down her face as she hugged Lily tightly. "You saved my life," she whispered, voice choked with emotion. "I don't know how to ever thank you enough, my little hero." Vega crouched beside them, trying to steady her own shaking hands. "You were incredible, Lily," she said. "Rocco followed your every instruction. You kept everyone safe." She glanced toward the deputies, who were now collecting evidence and guiding the restrained men toward transport. "This canyon, it didn't break you. You faced it, guided by your instincts and courage." The little girl's eyes shimmered with a mixture of relief and lingering fear. "But what if they come back?" she whispered. Her voice trembled, revealing the gravity of what she had endured. "They won't," Vega replied, though her voice carried the cautious authority of someone who understood the unpredictability of danger. "We've got backup coming and these men won't escape. You've done everything right. You were brave, smart, and strong." Elise held Lily close, rocking her slightly. "I've never been more proud," she whispered. "You saved me and maybe even others too. That little brain and that brave heart of yours, I don't even have words." Vega's eyes scanned the canyon, taking in the chaos that had unfolded, overturned boulders, scattered branches, footprints in the dirt, and the faint traces of the attackers' desperate flight. It was a scene of chaos, survival, and triumph. And yet the most remarkable element was not the officers, the weapons, or the captured men. It was the tiny girl and the dog who had coordinated instinctively, saving lives in a way no one had anticipated. The deputy in charge approached, radio crackling faintly. "Detective, the last of the men are secured and additional units are sweeping the canyon perimeter. You're clear for extraction." Vega nodded, exhaling slowly. Relief washed over her, but she knew the night's events would linger in memory, a vivid reminder of how quickly ordinary moments could become extraordinary struggles for survival. She looked down at Lily again. "You know," Vega said gently, "most people would have run and hidden. You didn't. You took charge. You made choices that saved lives." Lily's small hands trembled as she stroked Rocco's fur. "I just told him what to do," she said softly. "He listened. He knew." Her eyes glimmered with awe and relief. "I didn't think I could, but Rocco, he's amazing." Rocco nudged her again, tail wagging, his eyes steady and loyal. The bond between toddler and dog had become unbreakable, forged in the heat of danger, fear, and chaos. Elise looked up at Vega, voice still shaking. "I can't believe what just happened. How can one small child—" Her words trailed off, overwhelmed by emotion. Vega placed a hand gently on Elise's shoulder. "Sometimes courage doesn't come in expected forms. Sometimes it's in the smallest, most overlooked people. Tonight, Lily was the bravest of all." The canyon's shadows seemed to recede with the approaching dawn, light washing over the jagged rocks and revealing the full extent of the night's turmoil. The desert, harsh and unforgiving, had tested them. But in the end, bravery, instinct, and loyalty had triumphed. Lily clung to Elise, resting her head against her mother's chest. "Are we safe now?" she whispered. Vega smiled softly. "Yes, for now you're safe. You did everything right. You were extraordinary." The officers began leading the survivors back toward the main trail, carefully guiding them through the rocky terrain. Rocco stayed close to Lily, obedient and vigilant, tail low but alert. Each step carried them closer to safety, further from the nightmare that had unfolded under the cover of night. As they walked, Vega reflected on the surreal events. The bravery of a toddler had guided trained adults, outmaneuvered dangerous criminals, and saved lives. She realized that true courage was often found in the least expected places, in those who acted out of love, instinct, and pure determination. Finally, they reached the edge of the canyon where the terrain leveled, and the first signs of civilization appeared. Vehicles, officers, and medical personnel waited, lights flickering in the early morning. Backup had arrived, securing the perimeter and ensuring no other threats remained. Elise knelt, hugging Lily again. "You're my hero," she whispered. "And Rocco, you're incredible too. I don't know how I can ever thank either of you." Lily smiled faintly, exhaustion and relief mingling in her expression. "We did it together," she said simply, glancing at the dog. Vega approached, placing a comforting hand on the girl's shoulder. "Remember this, Lily. You faced darkness, danger, and fear, and you didn't run. You guided the people around you, you stayed strong, and you saved lives. That is courage." The toddler looked up at her, eyes wide. "I just wanted Mommy to be safe," she whispered. Vega smiled, heart swelling, "and you made sure she was." In the golden light of sunrise, the desert canyon, which had been a stage for terror and courage alike, seemed to breathe a quiet sigh. The chaos, the fear, and the danger had passed, but the memory of the night's events would linger, a testament to bravery, instinct, and the extraordinary bond between a little girl and her police dog. As emergency personnel guided Elise and Lily toward the waiting vehicles, Vega looked back at the canyon one last time. The rocks, shadows, and rugged terrain had been witnesses to an extraordinary story, a story of courage, survival, and unexpected heroism. Lily walked beside Rocco, holding his leash tightly, small and determined even in exhaustion. She had faced terror and emerged victorious, her bravery leaving an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it. Elise followed close behind, clinging to her daughter, gratitude and awe written across her face. Vega took a deep breath. The nightmare was over, the criminals apprehended, and lives saved. But the story, The incredible story of a toddler and a dog facing unimaginable danger would be remembered forever. Lily glanced up at Vega, a small smile breaking through the fatigue. "Will we be okay now?" she asked softly. Vega knelt, meeting her gaze. "Yes, Lily. Thanks to you and Rocco, you all will be okay. You were heroes tonight." The little girl hugged the dog one last time before stepping into the safety of the waiting arms of her mother. The canyon, which had held darkness and danger, now held only memories of courage, love, and an unbreakable bond. And as the first rays of sunlight bathed the desert in gold, Detective Vega realized a truth she would never forget. Heroism doesn't always come in size, it doesn't always wear a badge, and sometimes it arrives in the smallest hands with the fiercest heart. The desert held its quiet, timeless vigil, bearing witness to the night when a toddler and a police dog defied fear, exposed the truth, and saved lives in a story that would echo forever.